A slider. That's the whole story, and also not the story at all. According to the rollout descriptions circulating for GPT-5.6, Sol, OpenAI has shipped a user-facing reasoning control to Plus and Pro subscribers, a dial that governs how much computation the model spends thinking before it answers. A lighter variant, reportedly called Luna, goes to free and go tiers. Before going further, a disclosure of our own. We were unable to independently verify the Sol and Luna designations against OpenAI's published release notes. Treat the product names and tier assignments as reported, not confirmed. What is verifiable, and what actually matters, is the 3-year engineering lineage that made a slider like this inevitable. This did not begin in 2026. In September 2024, OpenAI introduced its O1 models, which spent tokens on hidden intermediate reasoning before producing an answer. The API soon exposed a parameter called reasoning effort, with settings of low, medium, and high. GPT-5, released August 7, 2025, added a minimal setting and a router that decided automatically whether a given prompt warranted deep reasoning at all. GPT-5.1, released in November 2025, went further, adaptive reasoning, plus a none option, and in ChatGPT itself, selectable thinking levels for the thinking model. So a user-facing reasoning control is not a new invention. It is the developer parameter finally surfacing to consumers. Here is the precise claim, and precision matters. The slider does not make the model smarter. It does not swap in different weights, load more parameters, or grant access to better training data. What it adjusts is a budget, how many hidden reasoning tokens the model is permitted or encouraged to generate, and how aggressively it is allowed to stop early. 3 consequences follow. Latency rises, cost rises, because those hidden tokens are billed tokens, and accuracy on hard multi-step problems tends to rise, while accuracy on simple factual lookups does not, and response quality on conversational tasks can actually degrade as the model overthinks. Compare this to Anthropic's approach. Claude 3.7 Sonnet, released February 24, 2025, was described by Anthropic as a hybrid reasoning model, a single model that could answer immediately or think first. In the consumer app, that surfaced as a binary, extended thinking, on or off. But the API told a different story. Developers set a parameter called budget tokens, with a documented minimum of 1,024 tokens, scaling to very large ceilings on later models. That asymmetry is the point. Anthropic gave consumers a switch and developers a dial. The company's own documentation frames the budget as a target rather than a hard cap. The model may not use everything allocated. Google took the third path, then reversed it. Gemini 2.5 Flash shipped with a thinking budget parameter, a token allocation that could be set to 0 to disable thinking entirely, or to -1 for dynamic thinking, where the model decides for itself. Gemini 2.5 Pro exposed a similar budget, but, per Google's documentation, could not have thinking turned off completely. Then, with Gemini 3 Pro in November 2025, Google introduced Thinking Level, discrete settings rather than a raw token count. Note what happened. Google moved from a continuous budget toward named levels. These are different units of control, tokens versus tiers, and they should not be treated as interchangeable, even when the underlying mechanism is similar. Now the tiering question, which is where the reported Sol and Luna split, becomes genuinely interesting. If a lighter model serves free and go users, while paying tiers get the adjustable one, the control itself becomes the product, not the intelligence, the discretion over how much intelligence to spend. That is a meaningful shift in how these systems are sold. Earlier generations gated capability, better model, higher price. This gates allocation. Two users can access the same underlying reasoning stack and receive materially different answers to the same question, depending on where a slider sat. Reproducibility, in that world, becomes a setting rather than a property. For anyone building on top of these APIs, the practical question is blunt. Do you expose this control to your users or absorb it? 3 patterns have emerged. Expose it directly, a slider in your own UI. Honest, but it asks users to reason about reasoning, a concept most cannot price correctly. Abstract it entirely, route by task classification, the way GPT-5's router does internally. Cleaner, but you own every misroute. Or the middle path, semantic presets. Not high effort, but draft quickly versus check this carefully. The user expresses intent. You translate intent into budget. There is a hard commercial reason this matters. Hidden reasoning tokens are billed. On the highest settings, a model can generate several times more invisible thinking than visible output. A product that exposes an unconstrained reasoning slider to end users is exposing its own margin to end users, which is why abstraction usually wins in production. The router is not primarily a usability decision. It is a cost control decision wearing a usability costume. The counterargument is legitimate. In high-stakes domains, legal review, medical triage, security analysis, users may reasonably demand the ability to say, "Think harder about this one," and to know the system complied. So, measured conclusions. The reasoning slider is not a breakthrough. It is a developer parameter being promoted to a consumer affordance, and every major lab arrived at the same place by a different route. OpenAI through effort levels, Anthropic through token budgets, Google through both in sequence. Watch 3 things. Whether the labs publish honest benchmark curves showing where extra reasoning stops helping. Whether tiered access to reasoning depth draws regulatory attention. And whether users, given the dial, simply pin it to maximum and complain about the weight. The interesting question was never how hard a model can think. It is who decides.